Hi guys, welcome back to episode 2 of Mark Anthony's Music Picks. First episode went down great. I had a lot of fun, a lot more fun than I thought I was going to. And I've got 3 more titles that I'd like to review for you guys. So without further ado, let's get rolling. Okay, the first record that I want to talk about tonight is by a new artist. His name is Jeigo. Never heard of this guy before. My friend Matt Salcedo put me onto him. Matt, if you don't know who he is the inventor of the Discogs Enhancer tool, which is a plugin for the Google Chrome browser. If you use Discogs on a regular basis and you're using Google Chrome, I highly recommend just go and download this thing and add it to your Chrome as an extension. It's free and it's got at least 30, maybe 40 enhancements that Matt, along with some of the other Discogs user base, came up with and invented. So Matt is the sole proprietor for that plugin, but some of the users made suggestions, and Matt had the know-how and you know the time and dedication to make those features actually come to life. So if you've ever been using Discogs and you're like, oh man, I wish it did this, or why does it do this one little like annoying thing in this one situation, Matt has probably already addressed it. So definitely check that out. It's free. And I'm sure Matt would appreciate your support. So on to the music. The record I want to talk about is Jeigo, and the EP is called An Ode to Midnight, if you can see that there. It's on a label called Air Miles, which is relatively new. I believe Air Miles only has 1 or 2 records out at this point, both by Jeigo. The reason I love this record so much is that it's a beautiful combination of like straight up house. It sounds modern. There's breaks elements in it, but it's not straight up breaks. It's like a breaks house hybrid. Really, really smooth production. It just sounds clean. This might be a little heavy-handed to say, but I'm gonna make the claim anyways. It reminds me of in 2006 when deadmau5 had some singles coming out and he hadn't blown up yet, but he had tracks that were appearing in playlists here and there. And like, I remember like being at parties and DJs were, you know, making mention, like almost like whispers of deadmau5. I think that Jeigo is in the phase of like having all this talent and he's like just on the cusp of blowing up. The production is just absolutely crisp and smooth, and you know, for this release in particular, it's 4 tracks. The first track is probably the most epic. I like the track A2 because it has tribal drums, and I'm just a sucker for drums. On the B side, there's some touches of progressive in there, and also maintaining that slight touch of breaks in the way that the percussion is laid out. I think it's just a really unique EP, and something that once it catches on, I wouldn't be surprised if it sells a couple thousand copies. So Jeigo, please keep them coming. I love what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to your next release. Next track I want to talk about is a Lana Del Rey remix, and this came out all the way back in 2013. The remix is of a track called Summertime Sadness, and the remix artist is Asadinho. This guy, he's still making music right now. I think this was where he totally broke out. It's kind of a crossover record. This record was actually brought to my attention by one of my close friends, Mike Alba. Mike, he's a huge fan of the underground scene, and yet he simultaneously gets booked at these horrendous gigs at bars out in the suburbs here in Philadelphia. And I feel bad for him because he really wants to play underground music and go dark, but he's always playing to a mainstream crowd. So he ends up finding these tracks that are maybe like a darker, twisted remix of a familiar vocal, and he's able to get away with that and mix it in with some of his you know, other, you know, pop songs to keep the crowds from having like a total mutiny against him. So this is the record here. It's Lana Del Rey, Summertime Sadness, Asadinho remix. From the musical standpoint, I have absolutely hammered the heck out of this track. In the car, I played it at home, and when I play this thing, I play it until the speakers are, you know, almost like distorting, and then I back it off a little bit, but it just gets me so fired up. The intro is just a little bit ambient, you know, kicks and claps going into about 2 minutes, and the part that just absolutely gets me is there's a bass line that comes in, and simultaneously introduced on top of that is a synth like I've never heard before. So the synth is like, it sounds like if you had a wet piece of sheet metal and you twisted it like a towel and like wrung it out. Like I know that sounds crazy. Just listen to the track. When that lead synth comes in, like, tell me that doesn't do something to you. I mean, it just gets me so fired up. I don't know what this guy did to make that sound. I don't know if he had to combine a couple of things or if he just found some synth patch, you know, somewhere. Nobody else sounds like him. No other track sounds like this. Definitely check it out. I saw it for maybe $30 on Discogs. I'm pretty sure you can get the file version out on Beatport. So if you don't feel like paying $30 for it, at least give it a listen and drop it in your sets. It's a little bit slower, just to warn you. It's maybe 117, 118 beats per minute. So probably opening set material, but absolutely nasty. And like I said, it's a crossover. So think like 20% Jeigo, 80% just utter darkness. So good luck with that one, guys. Last record I want to talk about tonight is a label called Little Helpers. And the artists are actually various artists. This here is Little Helpers number 10. Little Helpers is run by Sean O'Neill, who also goes by the name Someone Else, and it's also run by Butane. Both guys are known for making that dark, small room, I call it small room tech house, where it's really punchy kicks, bouncy bass lines, and overall like a dark vibe. And it tends to lend itself to parties like Resolute, Black Market, where it doesn't have a fixed location. You're in a small warehouse, an abandoned store, an art gallery. It's that kind of music. There's not too many people making this sound anymore. For a while, Jeremy Caulfield, I feel like, had this sound on lock from maybe 2005 to 2010, and he's kind of left the scene. And I noticed that this particular type of dark punchy tech house just kind of disappeared until I stumbled on the Little Helpers label, not even knowing that local DJ Sean O'Neill had almost resurrected this sound. So the concept behind the label is that the music is semi DJ tools, semi tracks. So you can long blend them, you can get a little bit creative with your mixes, you can relax while you're mixing them together, because you know that nothing crazy is going to happen where you're going to have two builds or two breaks hitting simultaneously. The beats are there, they're relentless, and you can count on them. Not to mention that the tracks are just absolutely catchy. So if you haven't checked out Little Helpers, take a look. They're mostly sold out at this point on Juno. They don't make a lot of them, but I would say listen to the back catalog, and if you like tech house and if you like that dark after hours, like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. techno scene, this is definitely a label for you to get into. So that's all for tonight, guys. I had a few people request that I start adding music samples to these. I don't want to do that because I don't want to infringe or have the YouTube police come after me asking me to take something down. So what I will do is down below, I'll give you links to the Discogs pages. There's YouTube player on there integrated right there. So if you want to listen to the whole tracks, you can do that. And thank you for your viewership, and I'll see you at the next episode.